You're listening to The View from Up Here, an equipping podcast by Viewpoint Leadership and Development. Our vision is to cultivate a change in the way the world views leadership and development. And our mission is to foster better leaders through a modern approach while developing individuals into their true selves. My name's Brad Walbridge, your host for our time together. And joining me in our conversations is our president and founder, Josh Trout, and our COO, Joel Archeri. Want to welcome back our listeners to the View from Up Here podcast. As always, I'm Brad, joined by Josh and Joel, coming to you from the Sit and Spin studios. We're joined today by George Singleton. George, welcome.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
George, you're the Vice President and COO of Upstate Circle of Friends.
Correct.
Can you just share with us, I know we're going to dig into a lot of different things, but share with us about Upstate Circle of Friends and how you got connected to them.
Sure, thanks. Upstate Circle of Friends is a non-for-profit organization that was formed in 2006 by, it was founded in 2006 by Ms. Dolores Pinson. She and I met probably in 2007 or a little bit earlier. She has a special needs son. Mm-hmm. His name is Aaron. And at that time, she was working for the Greenville County School District. Mm-hmm. She was an account specialist working at the main headquarters. And her then husband asked her, they would discuss the possibilities of opening up a after-school and summer daycare for special needs. Mm. You know, Aaron now is close to, I think he's right at 30 years old. And they talked about it, prayed about it, and decided. And fortunately for her, she was, there was a lot of things good in her favor. She was at the right place at the right time, whereby the school district was going through this major renovation, transformation. They were, the then superintendent, Harner, decided that every school in Greenville County was either going to be renovated, remodeled, rebuilt. Mm. And if you go in Greenville, there are no bad looking schools. Every school is top. I mean, it's great. Yeah. Unfortunately, in comparison to other counties, like especially the quarter of shame, the I-95 quarter down in the lower part of the state. So there were with that being said, there were a number of schools that were going to be put up for sale, torn down, rebuilt or remodeled. And the current location where we are, Serene Elementary, was one of those schools. Mm. So one day, her then boss allowed her to go out and just kind of shop around. Mm. And she looked at another school, Gant, which is not far from Serene or where we are now currently. She said, well, it's nice, but I'm looking for something. I don't really know what her reasons were, but she just, maybe the pricing or whatever. So she then went over to Serene Elementary, and when she drove up, she saw what she thought at the time was some nice little buildings, and it was quaint and whatnot. And she decided on starting her after-school program there. But little did she know, well, she later got the aerial map. It sits on almost 11 acres.
Wow.
So that kind of changed the whole dynamic.
I'm sure.
And from that, so 2006, she left the school district. May of 2006, she left the school district, and in June or July, she had like 21 special needs kids in her summer camp.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. But it was a major challenge for her because, again, we all have lofty dreams, and she had a business plan. I gave it to her. Had a business plan of what she wanted to do, but she realized it was going to take a whole lot. I mean, just because that's 11 acres in the 36,000 square foot building, it takes a lot. And she got discouraged. She shared that with me. She got discouraged a couple of times, and she said she felt like the good Lord said, "Keep coming back. Go back." And she knew a lot of people. And collaborations is the key with nonprofits, working and trying to work with other people. And she put together, she was part of a book drive, back to school initiative. And at that time, I was currently working at Greenville Tech as a director of community affairs and recruiting. My job was just making sure we could connect the community with Greenville Tech. Because there are a lot of programs at Greenville Tech that require certifications and those kind of things. Without so much, degrees and 2-year degrees is one of the things they focus on. So we had a chance meeting. A young lady, Ashley, put us together, said, George, this is Dolores. Dolores, this is George. I'm out. That's all she said. That's all she said. Yeah.
That's the handoff.
Yeah, Ashley Shockley at the time, she's remarried. And she said, I'm out. So Dolores and I were sitting there looking at each other, and I said, well, what do you do? She said, well, I have a school. I said, you have a school? That's pretty cool. And she was telling me about it and everything. And I told her, I said, I'm going to come out, check you out, because maybe there's something there. And a couple of weeks passed. I ended up calling her, and I went out, and I drove around the facility a couple of times because it was in pretty bad shape. School district knew it. They weren't trying to hide. And I called her. I said, is this the place? She said, yeah. I said, okay. Pulled up, and there she was, that big smile. And she had all these keys with all the doors, and she said, this is it. And I was like, oh, okay. So we did a tour, and I'll be honest with you guys. The right side of my brain, I tell people this, was saying, get back in your car, get back in your car. But the left side says stay, stay.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did. And from that day, it was interesting. Quick story, I know. We sat down, and she said, I'm looking for partners. People to help me build this up, because I want to turn this entire facility into an after-school special needs facility, because South Carolina is lacking in so many things. In that area in particular, it's just hard to find. I associate it with the military. If you do not know anyone that's been in the military or associated with the military on some level, you've been living under a rock.
Right.
The same thing can be said for special needs.
Absolutely.
We all have family associates. It's the same mindset, or at least understanding. So, we were talking, and I said, well, let me think about it. And I went home, just kind of muddled over it some more. I said, well, I think I've got some ideas. So I called her up, and I said, I think we need to maybe look at partnering. She says, I don't know if we need to do this, if we can. I was like, wait a minute.
You just got turned down.
You're telling me what did I do? What did I do? And she said, but you're a busy guy. You're writing books. You're traveling all over the place. And I'm like, where is she getting this from? Well, there's another George Singleton, graduated from Furman.
Oh, really?
Did he also play in the NBA too?
No,
Okay.
he's right. No,
A couple of details different.
Yeah.
Couple of details.
He's an artist. He writes books. He's but she Googled me or whatever she did at the
That's
time.
so funny.
But there were no pictures. It was just
It's hilarious. I was about to say, didn't you look at a picture and
So,
go,
so I said, oh, I know you. I said, yeah. I said, you're right. I am doing a book study right now. We're getting ready to write a book about some children, and I just know that where you are would be great. I could
That's
do
so
some
funny.
research. I have a book signing at Barnes & Noble. And she's going, yeah, I know. I said, so this is going to be tough, but I think I can. She said, that's why. She said, why would you, a famous artist, a guy that's writing books, Arthur and all this. And I was like, well, yeah, but I think I could squeeze you
I
in.
love it.
And I just went on, and she was like, I just wish we could have worked it out and this and that. And finally I told her, she said, I still shouldn't hire you.
because you're a liar?
But anyway, so since then, I did we started out, I was consulting, and I realized I need to just go ahead and be honest and just step down from Greenville Tech before they fire me. And we just, since then, we've just been going. So, that's a lot that you asked me. I just thought I'd give that
great.
to you. But, our mission is, we're committed to enhancing and empowering the lives of youth and individuals and their families through education, recreational, and social programs. Kind of a holistic approach.
Right.
We've evolved over the years from, we've had 2 charter schools there. We have after school summer. We're a community center / incubator. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, it's 36,000 square feet. We have, 22 classrooms, a cafeteria. We don't have a gym. That's the one thing. We now have a huge garden, and we'll get into all of that. So, probably more than you asked for, but yeah.
No. I think that's great, because that lines up with, we talk about, we can be in a leadership role.
Yeah.
But there's something different between I'm in a leadership role and I am also passionate
Yeah.
about what I am leading.
Yeah.
What are you passionate about with
Well,
Upstate Circle of Friends?
It's interesting that you mention that because on my desk I've got a little, got George Singleton, Vice President, and right underneath it I've got passion, persistence, and patience.
Yeah.
It may not be in that order, but those are my 3 Ps. And for me, I guess it goes back to, I oftentimes say this, my mother, she was a very, very passionate woman, and she would say things like, if you're going to do something, do it right. She was very passionate about it. We would have gatherings, and, went to I can say this, I went to my cousin's wedding, and afterwards the reception was just, it was like, it was, it wasn't a lot of food. It wasn't a lot of things going on. My mother was pissed. She said, they could have done a lot better. She said, you bring me up here and you're giving me pretzels and stuff like that. What kind of, she said, it just came to mind, because she was all about, if you're going to do it right, because you have that level of passion. But, giving my upbringing and seeing and experience many of the challenges that I was faced with, as many of us are, you want to try as much as you can to make life better for those that are with you, and those that are around you.
Yeah.
So, I like the journey of us, going together. It's just everybody's using this phrase now that if you want to go fast, you go alone.
Yeah.
But if you want to, go far, you go together. That's an African proverb. So, that level of passion of seeing something as it is, what can you do to make it better, brings about a drive. Because I look back, I'm constantly, when I say looking back, I look at our facility and the things and the programs that we have there, and I'm saying, man, I remember when we started here, but look at where we are now, and look at how we're continuing trying to impact the families, the individuals, the groups. And I think that's the passion. The patience is you gotta have the patience of Job. Lord have mercy.
Absolutely.
When you're in the nonprofit world,
That's tough.
most of our board members some of them have retired, others have worked in the for-profit. And I remember a good friend of mine who was very much involved in a lot of the things we've done, and we would be trying to put things together. And she said, George, in the for-profit world, you sit down, you decide on something, boom, the next day. She said, but the nonprofit I'm seeing, you just gotta wait, and then being persistent. I mean, with that patience, you gotta be persistent in saying, okay, because I've got notes of everything, things that are going on, quotes of just stuff that needs to happen. But that's where being persistent and patient and being passionate, that all kind of runs together. So.
Now, Upstate Circle of Friends has been recognized a number of times.
Yes.
For work in the community.
Yeah.
Can you speak to some of that and just some of the ways that the organization has expanded beyond just special needs with kids?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, real quickly, after I met with Dolores, and she forgave me and decided to hire me and we partner after we got beyond that.
Right.
She probably doesn't forget it, right? She never forgot
She never
that.
lets me forget it. She go like,
She's still wondering why you show up.
She says, I remember when I know you, yeah. So, we were sitting, and I told her, I said, young lady, you can do so much with all of this. I mean, my mind was just going, oh, man, the caviar dreams and the beer money. Well, the stuff you can go with that. And I was saying to her, gosh, you could just, there's so many type programs and things. And geographically, where we are, we're 4 blocks from 85. We're a couple of blocks from Whitehorse Road and a couple of blocks from 25. I mean, we're just right there in the middle. And she, we look at it and try to kind of continue to put things together. And her contacts with the school district and my contacts having been affirming graduates, I mean, I've tried to get everybody I've known at some point in time to come out here. God bless his soul, Mr. C. Dan Joyner. He came out, and big real estate tycoon, as we all know. and the hips and all the Hartnesses, just people that are influential. Many of those that are here in Greenville, and with her contacts in the school district. But we also have a great relationship with the Department of Juvenile Justice. And the very first grant that we received, well, we didn't receive it. They had a program that was called TASK, the acronym Teen After School Center Program. Guys, I'm going back years now. All these acronyms, you guys forgive me.
You're fine.
And we wanted to apply for it because we saw that it could be a program where we could involve and engage teens.
Yeah.
One, keep giving them a positive alternative versus getting out of school. And statistics will show that the hours of the day where most teens get in trouble during the day is between 3 and 6 or 7 o'clock because they're just roaming the streets or doing whatever. And we had missed the deadline. We didn't know about it. So we informed the directors. The state director said, we still want to have a program. We still want to do it. And they were like, what do you mean? You have no money? I said, no, we'll figure all that out. But we still would like to be recognized as a teen after school site. So they said, you have our blessings. So, like Tina Turner, we wanted the name. We wanted the name. Yeah. Give us the name. Give me the name. So we established that site, and I forgot exactly how many youth we had, but I think it was around 25 or so teens that would visit our site. We had different programs. And to make a long story short, we won an award for it, for being the South Carolina Teen Task After School Site Center for the state of South Carolina.
Wow.
Then the next year they awarded us.
There you go. There you go.
But that was the first of many. One of our biggest supporters over the years, which we've had a number of them, initially starting out with ScanSource. They believed in us. Joan Burkett now, she was Joan Dealworth, I think that was her name, but Burkett is what I call her now. But Joan and I are very good friends. I mean, I really love her. And she saw it. She saw the passion in Dolores' eyes. And she just gravitated. And that organization has been instrumental in helping us. They helped us. They were very influential in helping us purchase a facility. They allowed us to get a brand new roof. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
I mean, you go over there now, you think you had another ScanSource site because I got rugs all over the place. I thought I'm at Upstate, but I said ScanSource.
Whatever
It's
works.
something else.
Yeah,
That's
but they planted this to help make it possible for us. Greenville's a great place for nonprofits and organizations.
And it's just great to have supporters. I mean, and it makes me think of Synergy Coffee.
Yeah.
One of our great supporters here for this podcast. If you're hosting an event, get Synergy Coffee. They're great.
There's the shameless plug right there.
I see that.
You like that?
Got to put that in there.
He was all in it. He was like, yeah, it's great to have
yeah.
supporters.
Oh,
you got me.
He's like, I don't know where we're going with this, but yeah, it sounds really good.
So good.
That was cool.
George, I would be remiss
if
I did not take the hook of Furman, of you mentioning Furman.
Yeah.
You're a Furman grad.
Exactly.
I would be remiss if I did not pull in as part of your leadership journey.
Yeah.
We see what you're doing today and what you're involved in, and we sometimes forget all the years before now and how leadership has evolved.
As do I.
Can you speak to playing basketball at Furman?
Sure.
You're drafted into the NBA. You play
Yes.
a number of years in professional basketball.
Sure.
And how that shaped those early years of becoming a leader.
Well, interesting enough, you hear this about are leaders born or made, and I've heard, it's not arguments, but comments on both sides. I think for me it was made pretty much when I say leadership, and that's still something I think about. But when you going back to high school, for me, when you're asked to meet at the circle there before the tip-off because you're designated as the team captain. And you're kind of wondering, okay, is it because of just seniority, I'm a senior, or I produce more points, or, what are some of the things? But I think it's more or less, it was from then leading by example, all the things that we have grown and known to expect from a leader, like being on time, things like you come into practice and getting others to be involved and engaged with what you're doing, working hard, setting all those little examples, but they're big examples because another thing my mother always said to me, she said, no matter what you do in life, somebody's always watching you. She said, young man, I'm telling you, no matter what you do, someone's always, so I always try to set a good example and have someone that you can look to. And as I was growing up, you know, it is true a village helped raise a family, because there were men in my life, unfortunately my father died when I was very young, that was involved with me in making sure that, you know, I stayed out of trouble. And even though sometimes they be doing some crazy stuff, but you know, once they realized that I might had a particular talent, they said, hey, you know, let's watch him, and make sure they were doing all those things. So you start taking account of yourself, saying, you know what, if they're asking me to do this or be this way, then I want to be a certain way.
Yeah.
I want to carry myself a certain way. If they make you the captain of the basketball team, then you got to make sure you hold that position, you hold that honor. And the same thing happened in college. You know, yes, you have a talent, and there's a lot to be said with championship teams or people in general when the leader or the best player on your team is, if not the hardest worker, but one of the hardest workers on your team. That is the biggest compliment that a coach can give to his captain. At least, says, you know what, this guy leads, or this young lady leads by example.
Yeah.
They are, you know, they're if not the hardest, they are the hardest working player or person on my team. And then they say, but they're a better person. So that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, when things like that resonate, and then you'll have other teammates from time to time, you'll see they'll be talking to other people, say, man, if I had your talent, and you could see that maybe they're not using it, you know, how good you could be. I didn't have them tell me that, but I've been as a coach, you could say, boy, you don't realize how talented you are, but you don't really know how to put it all together.
Yeah.
But getting back to your point, you know, so you take these lessons, and as far as expectations, what you want to do in life, and it's like planting seeds, you know, so you want to be able to lead by example. I tell everyone at our community center that I won't ask them to do something I haven't done.
Right.
You know, we mop floors. I speak of Dolores. She's driven a bus. Our first camp, you know, she'd drive the bus, pick up the kids. They get off the bus. I'd have them. Another gentleman would help. We'd get them in classes for the summer. She'd immediately go and get lunches prepared, and then come do the classes, and then afterwards we'd have an activity. She'd take them back.
Yeah.
Then we would spend 4 or 5 hours cleaning up the school. So it was all these things, but it wasn't beneath me.
Right.
And again, just leading by example. You
Yeah.
know, so those tools, because you would say, how do I want someone to see me? I want to show them that I'm capable of doing things, and that they can do it too. And examples are the best word of showing how you can be a good leader.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Josh,
no, go ahead.
you were gonna.
No, that was pretty much it for right
Yeah, I
now.
don't want to cut you
But
off there.
I didn't get into the Furman and the Lakes, but I can talk about that later on. Yeah.
Well, and what I do want to touch on is, Josh, you've connected with George.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and you wanted him to be on the podcast. You
I-
recruited
yeah.
him in. What drew you to George, and what kind of walk us through that?
Okay, other than his massive hands from being an NBA player.
Oh, sure.
Oh man,
You know?
not quite big enough. That ball will slip sometimes. Yeah.
I thought I had big
Much to
hands,
the
but
chagrin
man.
of magic.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. No, you know, I was blessed to have the opportunity to meet George through the American Heart Association. You know, sitting on the board with American Heart, we held a meeting there.
Yes.
And I was just drawn to him immediately. I think his leadership and his vision for the community is really, really impressive. You know, I think it's a need that needs to happen in the community, not just where we're at, but all over, right? And I think that your drive was something that I really, really appreciated.
Yeah,
you know,
thank you.
and I think that that shines through.
Yeah.
And when you stood up in front of us and you talked, he had command of that room.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that as a leader, when you're able to go up and stand in front of somebody and a group of people and talk, and all that passion and drive shines through, and it engages everybody, and you kind of get mesmerized almost. That says a lot about a person. And I think that's one thing that really impressed me about you. And ever since then, we've got to talk and get to know each other a little bit more. And, when we were talking about bringing guests on, George was one of the first people I thought that would be great to come on because I think your story is amazing.
Thank you.
But, leading is difficult in itself. But like we talked about, leading in a nonprofit is even harder.
It's pretty challenging.
So if you can lead successfely in a nonprofit, man, that says something about you as a leader, right?
Sure.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't help his daughter. She's a big basketball. He, they say, go ahead, sit down. Tell me a little bit more about your daughter.
Yeah. And then we had the Furman connection because she was at camp up there.
Exactly.
And
It's interesting. Yesterday I was talking with a chief of staff for Cisco, and he said the best leaders are usually athletes.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really important thing because
Absolutely.
one of the distinctions is they're teachable.
Yeah.
They have drive. Nothing's beneath them. Right.
Yeah.
And good athletes, not
That's
just
right.
I played AAU basketball
Yeah.
and shot the three all
That's
the
a good
time.
point.
But actually had drive, had to sacrifice, had to go for something. But then you're teachable. You're willing to say, you're right. I'm not the one who knows the most. The coach knows the most.
Yeah.
He knows what I need to do.
Exactly.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful is you were
Absolutely.
a successful athlete.
Yeah.
And to be a successful athlete as a captain again, in the NBA, overseas, you have to be teachable. You have to be willing to do things that are hard and have that drive. So I think that's one of the reasons why you've been successful.
And I would agree. And also we have a couple of employees or people that we work with that have a great deal of military experience.
Yeah, that too,
I
yeah.
found
That's another one, yeah.
That the people, because you can, like this one young lady, I can give her an inch, boy, she'll take it and just run with it. She's a go-getter, and that helps. So I would.
It's almost like people who understand that they are not the chief person. That
Exactly.
They will never be the chief person.
Yeah.
They're always the better leaders because they
Yeah.
know that there was always going to be someone above them that they should at least lean into, or
Yeah.
someone that they need to lean into to get the
You're
better
absolutely
direction.
right. And another point I'd like to make is that oftentimes I'll say this amongst our folks that we work with is that I say, guys, it's okay. I just want to be an Indian right now. I don't want to be the chief on this one.
sometimes it was really nice to be, right?
It is,
I just want to be the Indian here. I want to be an Indian. I want to be part of that. You guys take it and run with
Love
it.
it.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to see that.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Well, for some people it's hard to do, but you always want to. That's another thing about a leader is trying to hire or surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
You're the chief.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're the Indians.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Without getting any type of racial
Yeah.
aspect.
And he's saying we're smarter than you.
No,
And
Is that right?
I would second that. I would second that.
yeah, so that's true because it's amazing what we've got a garden that we're starting with. It's a huge. That's a big initiative we got going on. Wasn't part of our strategic plan, but of course you got 11 acres. Then
Yeah, I was
why
about
not?
to say.
Yeah. We were
big
approached.
garden.
We were approached by a couple that was interested in doing it, and a little pre-story to that. When the charter school was there, we had a smaller garden. It was beautiful. It was nice. We had, it was home and gardens. It was beautiful. Then the teacher left, and it just went to the dump. And I was like, so I just done away with it and had a cement pad put on it, and it's a patio now. I was so pissed off. Well, this other couple came in and they were engaged, and I said, yeah. So we had talked about it, and then they brought another young lady in who was just, when you meet someone and they've got pictures on their phone about gardens and flowers, and
They're very impressive.
and they're talking about pollination.
Yeah, these people are amazing.
And
Talking about pollination.
Yeah,
They make you feel really stupid.
yeah,
right?
yeah. You're sitting out in the garden, and she's talking. She goes, "Oh, there's a hawk that can." I'm like, "What?" She's talking about all these things with nature and all this. I'm like, "Hey, we've got something." But anyway, so we brought her on, and it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Wow, it's just a blessing."
Yeah.
Just to have that, because again, it wasn't part of our strategic plan. And
Right.
saying, in year 2022, we're going to have a 10,000 square foot garden. No, it just happened. And that's a perfect example where you just say, okay, let me just be an Indian here.
Yeah.
And you have that supervision, and you just go with it.
It's
And
that sharing of leadership.
It's the
Yeah.
sharing of
that
leadership.
is so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, because you don't know, what's the saying say, you show me someone who thinks they know everything, you'll see someone who knows nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So true.
Amen.
Yeah.
As I look at and examine the history that you have had and the experience you have had working with a lot of different organizations, the word that kept coming up as I was researching for our podcast was ambassador. That I don't mean to be it in a regal term.
Yeah.
But when you think about an ambassador, someone who is carrying the vision of an organization or an effort and is trying to connect people to that.
Yeah.
The leadership within that, I think is there's a uniqueness to that because you're leading people you're not even necessarily responsible for.
That's true.
You're leading them towards the work that needs to get done.
Yeah.
How has that, just kind of looking at your past and to where you are today, how is your leadership style today different from even 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Well, I will say this, to answer your question, a phrase that's become more apparent is meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
That really speaks to the young people that are in our program. I would say that we're involved with in our program. I would say 10, 12 years ago, it was more or less, this is the way we want to do it because you guys don't know, blah, 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 you're just young people. But I've learned over time that you got to meet them where they are, as I said earlier, but really allow them to be engaged because they have ideas. So you got to open yourself up to accepting them and saying, look, you're older, they're coming into their own. Your way of teaching and trying to bring this to them may not be the best way because it's just a whole different world. Yeah. So that was one thing I had to learn. And when you are, in a leadership role and people are looking at you and say, God, this guy's got a 42-inch vertical. I can.
You still have a 42-inch vertical?
No.
I want to say, hold on. Can we talk about that?
Let's do that right now.
Yeah. It's a 2-inch vertical.
We have to raise those cameras up a little bit.
Trying to make sure I don't trip over some of these rugs in here.
Oh, my gosh.
So, you think, okay, I know about that, so you're looking to me because I can do this and do that. But when you're in this type of environment surrounding, it's not like that. Going back to what I was saying about being in, you got to say, okay, what do you have here, young man? Oh, I've got this program. Well, what's it about? Tell me about it. They'll talk about it. So you're working together, and then you get to a point and say, okay, well, just got a few suggestions, but go ahead, run with it. Let's see. And you're watching from afar if they stumble. And then at the same time, you're learning and say, wow, I didn't know. Talking about the young man with the podcast over at my facility. When he approached me, I was like, okay, what are you looking to do? And he told me, and I was like, okay. Yeah, I know nothing about this, but I said, let's give him a shot. Blew my mind.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. Whereas maybe years ago, I've been like, nah, you don't really look like you could. And so you got to be more open and accepting. So, that's kind of how I see that. The biggest compliment I received, in this nonprofit is that 3 years ago, we were looking at trying to have a farmer's market before the farm came on. And I was met with a young man who was very passionate. He works as far as cutting up meats and stuff in a supermarket. And he wanted to start his own meat market, per se. And I was sitting there just talking to him. And I said, young man, one day you're going to have to take advantage of this. You're going to have to go out on faith. You got to try to go out there and do it. I said, you got all the tools, because listening to him, he had the experience and all these things. I said, man, you got to do it. You got to go out there. And, what's holding you up? Support from his family and everything. He's like, Mr. George, I don't know. I said, man, listen, scared money makes no money. And, you got to walk by faith. You got to take a chance because you don't want to regret it. Fast forward, there's a shop on Wade Hampton. It's called the Black Sheep Meat Market. It's right there on Wade, right across from the Canopy Car Wash.
Sure do. Yep.
Yeah. So I didn't know this. We had a meeting. There was a meeting with some other folks, and the gentleman shows up, and I saw him. I was like, Pat, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And we started talking, and he said, my motivation and inspiration is because of you, Mr. Singleton. And I was like, what? He said, That's powerful. He said, the words you poured into me that day was what I needed to start. I almost came to tears. And I was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
He said, "Because you really put things in such a way that I just made it a point that after I left that meeting today, I was going to start my business." So that when you do stuff like that, oh my God, it's great.
We can never fully know the impact that we have.
Absolutely.
We just have to trust that the work that we're doing is investing into them.
Yeah.
And that it's going to have, going to reap the benefits down the road, even if it's not for us.
Yeah. Absolutely
So,
right.
George, would you mind if we connected people to you through our show notes?
Oh, absolutely.
We can put the information about Upstate Circle of Friends.
Sure.
Of course, our viewers, our listeners can see us in the show notes where our website will be.
I wish they could see his beautiful shoes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Good looking shoes.
Oh no, they fit. They're comfortable, guys. That's amazing. Yeah,
so whether connecting with George, connecting with us, we'd love to connect with you and be able to help you in your leadership journey. We appreciate you being here with us on The View from Up Here. Look forward to our next time together.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome.